Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel where I'm posting free Linux tutorials, videos obviously, but with accompanying PDF notes, lots of them, and VirtualBox appliances you can use. I've changed the front screen here, so I put on a list of why, if this is the first time you've seen this, why you might want to watch one of my tutorials. My unique selling points. So they're free at the moment to Facebook users. I've got 20 years experience of training in Linux. I supply PDF course notes and VMs. I've done Mint and CentOS. I haven't uploaded Ubuntu yet, but I will do it soon. Easy downloadable sample files so that you can follow along with what I'm doing on my split screen delivery. Many examples, exercises with solutions in the notes, and questions answered by email. One reason I redid the front screen was someone in a comment, thank you very much, suggested that I tell people who might come here but not via Facebook where the notes are. So they're on my ice drive there. Today I'm doing the last one in white there, dual booting Linux and Windows, which a lot of people try and do and seem to have problems with. And later this week I'll be posting the next installment of my Linux command line for beginners and Windows users. I hope you enjoyed the Vim Basics, although I didn't get many comments on it. Not sure I got any comments on it actually. This week is Find and Job Control. But we'll start now with dual boot Linux and Windows. Change Workspaces, and this one I've got VirtualBox open, and in there at the moment I've got the 3 VMs I mentioned, Mint, CentOS and Ubuntu, all with a snapshot. You take a snapshot by clicking here and going to snapshots. Oh, sorry, I was already on it, wasn't I? Clicking there will take you to details, but if you can't see snapshots, there's snapshots. So I've got each one snapshotted, which means if I make a mistake or I want to recover, I can go back to the original. Now this one is Windows 10 running SQL Server, because I teach SQL as well, sometimes, mostly on Oracle, but sometimes on Windows. If I start that up, at the moment it's booting into gparted, because before I install Linux to run alongside Windows, I've got to make room for it. So I've got to repartition the disk. And what you'll probably find is that Windows fills your disk. So you need to shrink what you've got there. It's easier now than it used to be. Windows used to make it quite difficult to shrink the partition, but I think now it can work. What it used to do, they used to put a hidden file at the end of the partition that you couldn't delete, so you couldn't shrink it. That's Windows all over, stopping you doing things. So here we are, and what we've got is one 50 gig disk. Now if I want to resize that, all you do is click on it, resize move, drag the end back, leave it some room. So if I go back to, I don't know, 30 gig, you won't need much to install Linux Mint. 10 gig would probably do. I can resize and move it there, and then I could click on edit, apply the operations, and that would shrink the disk. So that's one way of doing it, but the other way is to log into Windows and shrink it. So I'll show you how to do that. If I close this down, power it off, and then start it, I'll pause while it's starting. Actually, I made a mess of that because I forgot to take the disk out. Take the disk out, power off the machine, go to details, click on storage, click on the parted live, click on the disk and remove it. Okay. Now I can start it up. Now I'll pause it while it's starting. Right, log in with the PIN number. What am I doing? I'm not in the window. That's better. Didn't actually log in that quickly. I froze the video. Now to shrink the disk, we right click on the menu and go to Disk Management. Ignore these pop-ups. There'll be another one in a minute. There we go. No, it's not, because we don't use it. So here's our disk eventually. Right, it's 49 or now 50 gig, and the free space is 20 gig. So we will leave Windows 5 gig. So we'll create something of 15 gig by shrinking the volume. So right click on there, choose shrink a volume. Now enter the amount of space to shrink. So we want to shrink it by 15 gig. And then shrink. There, it's done. We've now got 14 gig that we can install Mint in. So we shut this down. I mean, the easiest way, as it's a virtual machine, is just power it off. And then to install Mint, we need to insert the ISO. So back in storage, the empty drive, click there on the disk and insert or find, if you haven't got it, go find Linux Mint. There it is. And OK. Check it's there and then start it up. Right, here we are. Now into install Mint, we double click on the disk icon. And up it comes eventually. There we go. So we're going to install in English, or I'm going to install in English. I want UK English. And if I was doing this for real on my laptop, I would install the multimedia codecs, but I won't bother here. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, if you install Linux Mint alongside Windows 10, which you can do there, it will use all the space. I'm going to show you how to do it yourself. It's a better way of doing it, I think. Well, that's not true, I suppose. You could just choose that and it will install Linux Mint in an efficient disk layout. But if you did want to do something else, rather than just clicking there, I mean, if you want rid of Windows, you choose that one. So that will install it alongside. I'm going to show you how to do this one. So if you choose the first one or second one there, you don't have to configure the disk. But this is how you configure the disk. So we find the free space, there's Windows there, and that little one there. Find the free space and add. The first thing I'm going to add is swap space. There's a lot of argument goes on in the forums about whether you should have swap space or not, but I usually add it. Can't do any harm, got enough disk space. And I make it the same size as the memory that I give it, which is 2 gig, which is half the memory the laptop has. And then we go back to the free space and we add, you need a minimum of a root partition. So you could have root take up everything, but it's a better way to do it is give root perhaps 12 gig. And then create a separate home partition. Whoops. So go to the free space, click on plus. I mean, you don't have to do this. The minimum you need is a root partition. You can have a swap partition and a root partition. I'm going to have a swap partition, a root partition, and a home partition. You can, if you want to, and you know what we're doing, you're doing set up partitions for temp, USR, var, etc. If you've only got root, everything will be under root. And that's the easiest way to do it if you're new to this. But I'm going to set up a home partition and give it the rest of the space. Now the reason for doing that, not the reason for using the rest of the space, but the reason for setting up a home partition is that when the next version of Linux comes along, has it not taken that? No, it didn't. You can install, so when I get Mint 21 next year, presumably, I can install it on that partition, and it will leave the files, all my files and configurations unchanged on the home partition. That'll do. So we click install now, and it tells us that it's going to format these three partitions. That's fine, so we continue. Choose where you live. Well, I'm near London, near enough. It's only 250 miles away. I'm in York, actually. Right, put in your name, or a name. Give the machine a name. Create a login. I'm going to use KDM and my usual password for testing of KDM123, KDM123, and click continue. And now I'll suspend it while it installs. Whoops, that's me starting the video up again. There we are, it's installed. So if we restart, it might ask us to take the ISO out. Sometimes they do, yeah. Press enter. I think you'll find VirtualBox takes it out. In which case, up comes the Grub. There we go, and we have a choice of Linux Mint, advanced options for Linux Mint, and Windows 10. Now, suppose you want to change the default. The default is it's going to go into Linux Mint, but you might want it to default to go into Windows 10. Counting from the top, that is option 0, that's option 1, that's option 2. And also the default timeout is usually quite long. Let's see what it is. If we shut this down and then start it again, you'll see at the bottom here it's counting in seconds. So you've got 10 seconds to choose which one you want with the arrow keys. You can change that if you want to. I usually set it at 2 seconds. Now to do that, what we do is go into Linux Mint. Let's drop that and put this over here and change the Grub. Now over here I've got setup file which I use for installing Mint, and in here is actually, if you look in my ice drive, let's go find that. That's here. No, it's not. Beg your pardon. It's here. It's here. if you look in ad hoc, there's a file called install and configure Mint. There we go. And down the bottom here, it tells you how to customize the Grub. So you can get hold of that, download that if you want to. If I open it back here, there it is, custom Mint 20. Oh, it's got a different name, it's the same file. Here we are down the bottom here. This is how you customize the Grub. So I can log in here to Mint with KDM123. If you've not seen Mint before, it's very easy to customize because it's so helpful once you log in. Just give it a minute. Come on, there we go. Okay, so up it comes with its welcome to Linux Mint screen. If you don't want to see that every time, click down here. And here it's got first steps. So what you should do, change your desktop colors, your panel layout, take some snapshots if you want to, look at driver manager, etc, etc. There's a documentation. You can get help there, or you can contribute there. And you can close that. You can find that again if you don't want it coming up every time. So what I'm going to do is open a terminal. So you get a bash terminal, and in here I can't copy and paste because if you look at configuring and installing Mint My Video, the first thing you do when you set up a new VirtualBox is to install the guest editions. I'm not going to bother with this one. If you want to do that, go and look at the other video. So which means I can't copy and paste, but I can do sudo nano. We're looking at etc defaults grub, which is where the Grub defaults are. Give it my password. That's not right, I've misspelt it. So we'll come out of there without changing it. It's default Grub, no S. If you use an editor like that and you misspell the file name, you just get an empty file. There we go. Now, we wanted, counting from the top, selection 2. So we change that to a 2. If you want to change the timeout, like I said, I put 2 seconds. You can put maybe 4 seconds. We can delete that and insert a 4. Then in Nano, to get out, you do Control and X. Save the modified buffer, yes. Write the file, yes. Now if you reboot now, nothing happens. You have to do a sudo update grub. That's why I keep it in a file over here, because I misspell things. Now what that does, that searches your system to see what other operating systems there are that you might want to pick up, and it's found Windows 10. There we go. So if we do a redo, it should default to Windows 10 and give us 4 seconds, there we go, to choose one of the others, and that will go into Windows 10. And that's how you dual boot Linux with Windows. If you want to change it back again, it's easily done. You go back, update the Grub and have it boot into Linux. If you wanted to triple boot and add another version of Linux, that's easy to do. You just add another version if you've got the disk space. The new version will generate a Grub which will choose Linux Mint, Windows and the new version. And either in Mint or the new version of Linux, you can edit the Grub file and choose the timeout and which version you want to, well, which operating system you want to go into. So that's the end of this video. If we go back here, That's dual booting Linux. I might do Arch next. Arch installed the hard way and the easy way. One problem might be I tried to install Arch in VirtualBox and it didn't work, so I might have to install it direct to a laptop, in which case I need to get a camera working so I can video it. The other thing here, which I usually mention, is if you don't know how to use Nano, for instance, or Linux, come on my Linux command line for beginners and Windows users course. We're up to section 6 this week. Before I go, the usual things: support development. Please support the development of the future courses, scripting and admin in particular, by subscribing to my channel, liking and commenting. A one-word comment, great, rubbish. Where you live would be nice. I like to know where people are. Ticking like is easy, or unlike. Recommend and share me on Facebook, so you can share my videos around on Facebook, recommend them to other people. If you want to send feedback, ask questions or suggestions via email, you can do that as well. And as it says there, a supporter is worth 1,000 followers. Not that I've got many followers. If you want to buy me a coffee and you come on the course, there's a link in the notes. And that's all for now. I'll see you for Find and Job Control next week. So bye for now.